All right, baseball fans, this is an Eliminating the Atlanta Braves video. What you're looking at is the last year, 2022 season of the Braves. They got 6 games better from a losing team the year before. You see the offense is really brewing a year ago. Pitching is awful. 232 runs scored, gave up 250. Maury Wills showed he still had life in the tank after the Dodgers gave up on him to move on to Bill Russell to play short. Maury Wills contributed nicely. Felix Mian's last year in Atlanta makes up a great double play combination. Probably would bat first and second on most teams. They've often batted 8th and 9th. Rico Carty's last big year with a 1970 card at 335. Dusty Baker's 72 card, fantastic, 308. There's Hank Aaron, 24 homers, 51 RBI in 46 games. 293 hitter. Darrell Evans debuted a 73 card, had nice results there. Ralph Garr, still disappointing, only a 264 for a well over 300 hitter. Earl Williams, last year before he gets dealt to Baltimore for Davey Johnson, just gave it 12 home runs, not a lot else. Let's go to the pitching, where Niekro is just an okay ace at 7-6 with a 3.89 ERA and a 1.31 WHIP, but does eat up innings, 111 of them in 6 complete games. George Stone was a nice little number 3 lefty. Trabowski had 9 saves, yet his ERA is 5.40, but his WHIP is 1.15. Figure that one out. But the failures were the rest of that pitching. Pat Jarvis, his final year, and they put him on waivers. Tom Kelly, number 4 starter, they got stuck with him, and nobody had to bring him back, see if he gets any better. Don Eddy was awful. So that's the Braves of a year ago. But then in the off season, take a look at what happened. 2023, they would add Tom House and Buzz Capra as the first picks. We'll get to them in a minute. Let's go to the offense, though. Dusty Baker improves on his first year with that card to a 357, went to the All-Star game. Hank Aaron, again, 292, was the MVP of the National League, but his numbers are slightly down in the homer RBI columns in 34 games, 19 and 36. They played less games because they won a lot of series, 22 and 12. Got stunned by the Phillies 4 games to 2. Got 182 runs, gave up 160. Let's keep going with the offense, though. Ralph Garr still's in at 300 for this team. Maury Wills is really taking a dip. Carty doesn't have that 70 card anymore. Davey Johnson did come from Baltimore with plenty of home runs and a nice on-base percentage. Darrell Evans didn't do too well. And the rest of the offense was pretty pedestrian. 254 batting average. Most teams who drop 40 points in batting average, you wouldn't expect them to get better. The Braves did. Because of the pitching, because their team ERA improved by 0.7. Led by the 2 new players, Buzz Capra, the number 2 starter, 5-1, 3.12 ERA, no complete games, and you saw their season ended where he got knocked out in the 8th inning of a Game 6 against Philadelphia. And it was Tom House who came in and got that loss in that game. Only the second loss House would give up. 3-2, 9 saves, a 1.71 ERA with a 1.10 WHIP. The good news for Atlanta is that Capra and House will be around for 4 years with those cards. So this Atlanta team isn't going anywhere. And they just ran into a hot Philly team at the wrong time. George Stone still does a nice job in the 3 spot. Tom Kelly, a little bit better, but 460. Look at Phil Niekro, though. His numbers are down a lot. Similar amount of innings pitched. He's just 5-6. He's only got 3 complete games, a 4.73 ERA. And that is how the Atlanta season ended. It's a case of a team with a bye, has too much time off. You can also make the case that they haven't played enough games to fully know what to do when this situation happens or that situation happens. An undermanaged team that only played 34 games lost to a Philly team that played 49 games. 29-20 was the Philly record. Let's take a look now at Atlanta's card set. This fantastic team that was the best team in the National League for most of the year until now. But the future will be bright. We're going to pull the 71 cards out. I can think of at least one hitter who was great. He's actually going to get better. That, of course, will be Ralph Garr. Okay. We're going to pull the 8 players from 71 out, and let's see how they will build back next year. Don't worry, Atlanta. You still have a super hot team that... Oh, I'm not going to call them overachievers because they have a great team. It's just that they weren't set up for success in traditional baseball playing in the National League West against the Reds and the Braves. Excuse me, the Reds and the Dodgers, who are going to win the West for the rest of that decade. But now they're in the National League East, having to compete against a Philly team that they just lost to. It could be Phillies and the Braves for the rest of this decade. You still have the Mets, still good enough in the early 70s to compete. So who knows what's going to happen next year. I expect the Mets, Phillies, and Braves to all be good. Looking at this, they have 8 hitters and 4 pitchers. That means their offense should be in good shape, but they got to rebuild half their pitching staff. Well, they got a catching platoon. It's not a good one. This is one of their problems, was that Oates and Casanova, at the bottom, their catchers never were put in the top half of the offense, as you can imagine. Tepedino got to play a lot of first base, probably better suited to be a DH or pinch hitter in this timeline. Obviously, he needed a platoon player, and they didn't have a defensive first baseman on this team. You have Davey Johnson at second base, of course. Brilliant card, has it for 2 more years. You have Darrell Evans. So you've got 84 home runs between Darrell Evans, Davey Johnson at second and third. Shortstop's missing. Rico Cardi's more of a DH. So we can put him back here at DH. And you have 2 outfielders. So you have Garr again. I thought Garr's card would be up. It's not up. So Garr's 325 card will continue. You could bump him up to his batting championship card of 74, where it's 354. And Dusty Baker, of course, has had 2 amazing years. Went to the All-Star game with this card. 321 and 72, 17-446, 2 in center field. His best defensive year as well. Pitching, we know half of these guys. The 2 new guys, House and Capra. Look, if you add these 2 to any team in baseball, you're probably going to get into the playoffs and go deep. I mean, how many... Look at the innings pitched. He pitches on 3 days rest. How many pitchers who can pitch on 3 days rest dominate righties like that? Sutton, Seaver, Jim Palmer, they don't. Not at least in this one particular year. Have to load up with lefties against them. And a lot of teams don't have a lot of lefties against them. And you tag team with this guy. If you notice the template, House had the better ERA. He gets the 1 template, Capra the 2 template. 192 led the club, 228 was second. For the 74 Braves. So it's very simple here. I mean, my goodness. 74 Dodgers, 74 Reds. National League West. I don't know who the best pitchers are, but I would take House and Capra over 74 Mike Marshall maybe and Don Sutton. I don't know. But House and Capra, my goodness. And this was the first of 4 years the Braves are going to play with these cards. This is really going to mess up the National League East, the plans of the Phillies and Mets having to deal with this 2-headed monster. The other 2 pitchers, George Stone, they got him back for another year. He actually was a Met. Mets can't get him or keep him because they already have 3 lefties. Kuzman, Matlack, and Tug McGraw. So Stone had to stay with the Braves where he was in 1970, and they just kept him rolling along. Great number 3 starter. Now Negro has gotten knocked around with this card, but it's a good one. You know, it's a typical Negro card in this timeline. 306, 282 innings. He just, you know, got lit up a few times that made his ERA balloon. So when you look at the pitching staff, Negro and Capra both can pitch on 3 days rest, and Stone and House. So of the 4 pitchers, the ones that went away were very inconsequential, really. So that is looking like a fantastic Atlanta team. the 12 guys. So let's take a look now at the 8 guys that are missing and then consider, can the Atlanta Braves again be a #1 team, the #1 seed in the National League? Could it happen next year? Let's see who they keep, waive, and retire for that cause. Okay, let's take a look at what the Atlanta Braves are going to do, beginning with their greatest player to ever wear their uniform, Henry Aaron. And 71 was an amazing year for Hank. Amazing year of an amazing career. I don't know how it rates overall as far as the big picture. You got a 1079 OPS that led baseball. He's over 1,000 there. How about earlier in the 50s? Yep, 1037 and 59. Imagine going 12 years and hitting over 1,000 OPS, 12 years apart. That's how you can arguably be one of the greatest players of all time. So there's that. 71, there it is. All-time leader in RBI as well. 71. That season gets you 3rd in MVP votes. But that's okay. All 3 guys kind of deserved it. Not a lot you can do. If somebody has to win it, they give it to Torrey. But you can see the logic with all the RBI that Joe Torre had. Had more RBIs than Hank. Did Joe Torre, a third baseman. So, yeah, no, I'm not going to debate the winners and losers in that ranking there. So you still have plenty. He's 38 years old, but he can still produce. Look at this. You have a 1045 OPS from a 39-year-old player. Can you imagine that? 1045, just slightly below the season we just had on that 73 Atlanta team with all those 40 home run hitters. So you can make it that card to join Darrell Evans and Davey Johnson, the 3 guys in the 40 homer club. Just the slightest of drop off from the card we just played, and you get it for 2 years. Once the 73 card expires, you know, he'll have, you might think about sending him to the Brewers. I don't know how that's going to play out, but for now, we don't care. We want to play the 73 card for the next 2 years. And so, question 1, can this team be the #1 seed next year? Well, yeah. After that replacement, I can say yeah. Next guy, Kurt Motton. He was a toss-in, believe it or not, in the trade we did with Baltimore, the Davey Johnson, Earl Williams trade. Outstanding pinch hitter. Probably got himself some rings. In 70, he got one. Yeah. And then the 3, he was on Baltimore and all those teams as a pinch hitter. It's now 72. So 72, he's off of Baltimore. He's with Milwaukee, California. Returns to Baltimore in 73 and 74. But his career is clearly winded down. He's only got 45 more plate appearances in 72. And just a handful for the Orioles after that. Is there a Kurt Motton card in 1972 with either California or Milwaukee? Well, look at that. If he doesn't have a card, he has to go into retirement. Looking for Kurt Motton for California or Milwaukee. Motton's not here. Look at Milwaukee. Motton is not there. See an extra player card? He is. And a California Angel extra player in 72. He gets waivers. That's nice. Doesn't have to retire. If the split is advantageous, and the present one was, he had no hits on his card against right-handed pitching and plenty of homers against lefties. And Atlanta used that to pretty much knock John Matlack out of a game. So Kurt Motton did the damage he needed to do to help the Braves get that #1 seed this year. Will he be missed? Probably not. You could usually find a platoon right-handed batter hits only left-handed pitching. So I don't think the loss of Motton is going to hurt. Next up, we have a couple shortstops, beginning with Marty Perez. Marty Perez. From 69 to 78. I'd like to think he might get a little bit better. That'd be cool, if he can. So we had the 71 card hitting 227. And look at this, 75. Look at him. He's more of a second baseman, which could be a problem with Davey Johnson there. He's a shortstop in 73. But really, look, he produces here with a 275 batting average. It's not glamorous. It's the position of shortstop. No reason to cut him or waive him. He's got plenty of plate appearances. Look at the plate appearances. So he's a big leaguer for this entire timeline coming up. Marty Perez is. It's only a question of, do you want to find somebody better than that? For now, this team is stacked, so I'm not really overly concerned with Marty Perez being, you know, an average replacement shortstop. Next up, Maury Wills. Now he might be finally over with. He actually went to the 69 expansion Expos. He had a little curious exodus at the end of his career here from the Dodgers. You see Pittsburgh in 67, then the Expos, then back to the Dodgers. So what we did was we had him go from the Expos to the Braves. Give you those two nice seasons in 70 and 71. A very older shortstop, but got the job done. Look, he got 6 MVP votes for a Dodger team that did very little in 71. As a 38-year-old switch-hitting shortstop, 6 in MVP voting. That's a heck of an accomplishment for Maury Wills. But in 72, his number is up. We're just going to find out as a courtesy, does he get waivers for the 72 Dodgers? We'll look over here. For Maury Wills, looks like Bobby Valentine is taking his roster spot. And he's not in the extra players for the Dodgers. So the career of Maury Wills is over. Break up Maury Wills' brilliant career, finally going into retirement. So that poses well for Marty Perez. The two platooned this past year. Now you can give full-time duties as shortstop to Marty Perez. Okay. Not much change in the offense, frankly. Now let's go to the pitching. Can it get better? Well, I think so. The best parts of the pitching you already saw are still around, and now the weaker parts are going to be on display, starting with Tom Kelly. 71, he was vulnerable to left-handed hitters. That's all right. He was a number 4 starter. Not a big deal. And you saw his stats are good. 9-5 with a 2.96 ERA. Probably would have been better off as a long reliever than a starter. Had 28 games, 20 of those were starts. 146 whip, a little bit on the high side. 72, he does come back to the Braves, but it starts to fall apart here with a 160 whip and a 157 whip. So if you're a playoff team like the Braves, you probably don't want this guy to stick around in your system. You want to improve on it so that you can beat the Phillies in the playoffs, or beat the Pirates in the playoffs, for instance, or the Reds, or the Dodgers, or Mets. So you got to improve on this pitcher. Let's see if he gets waivers in 72 at 116 innings. Should. He's not there. Let's look up top here for Atlanta. There he is. Let's put him on waivers. That's a good thing to do. That shows that they're more ambitious. They're not going to settle for Tom Kelly. They're going to say, we got to get better than that. Even if it means going outside the organization and using up draft picks or something. They've got to improve on Kelly. Next pitcher, Hal Haydel. He was brought in from the Twins just as a long man. Oddly, funny part is you could probably replace Haydel with Tom Kelly in the bullpen, not in the rotation. Haydel, as a Twin, that was it. Just a short little career. 49 innings, most of that in 71. Got into the Strat-O-Matic League, made a name for himself in the Braves. Saw him pitch in a couple of those playoff games, but his career is over. He's got to be on retirement, as he doesn't have a card anymore. He doesn't play in 72 and beyond. So Hal Haydel is the second retiree. Next, we got 2 more pitchers. We have young and old, beginning with Mike McQueen. Interesting car. Interesting. Got to probably find out more about this guy, because he came on the scene as a youngster. McQueen was in and out of this game so quickly. Look at that. 18-year-old pitcher in 69. So in 70, it's not good, okay? He's 19 years old. Give him a break. If he could be a situational left-hander with the card we just used, as a 20-year-old. He was. He did a decent job. 4-1, 354. Nice card. Just need him to get lefties out. That's it. So he comes back one more year as a 21-year-old, and then he's out of the game before his 24th birthday. Look at that. So, is this a functional year, this 4.60 ERA? I'm not going to eliminate it unless they fail to make his card. Let's see if the 72 McQueen exists. Not up here, but I think he's in the extra players. Okay, he exists. Now, here's the thing. He's a lefty, which is always valuable. And this is where they're going to have to really look at the card itself and look at the split and see if you're a left-handed pitcher and you can get lefties out, you might get into the league regardless of how bad your ERA is and how bad you are against righties. That's your goal as a lefty, get lefties out. So he qualifies for waivers, but they might want to take a closer look at that card and see if they want to keep it. We'll put him on waivers now since this... Actually, you know what? We'll keep him for now. It's much easier to keep a guy than change your mind and then put him on waivers later once you see what else is out there. So they're going to hold on to McQueen. They don't want to get rid of him and let somebody steal him away. You already have House in the bullpen as your lefty closer. So McQueen, if he's even remotely close, getting some lefties out, that would be a good thing. And lastly, we have an older pitcher, Mo Drabowski. The youngster McQueen. How many Mo's are there? Well, with a first name here. And there's Mo Drabowski. Now, he also got some playoff experience. He's getting up there in years. Started in 56. So he's in his late... Here he is. 66, he's on the Orioles. Got a World Series ring. In 70, he's with Baltimore for a portion of the season. He might have gotten a 70 ring. And then 71, we played his Cardinal card. It was really good. He set up Tom House. But now, 72, this is, boy, we really want this card. 257 ERA. Do you think they made it with the Cardinals or White Sox in 72? I'm going to guess probably not. Let's take a look. Cardinals or White Sox, 72 card for Drabowski. Start with the Cardinals. It's not there. Look at the Cardinals extra players. Not there. Now he's got to be a White Sox. Sometimes they do it even though he didn't play that much for the White Sox. Nope. And that's a shame. So no Mo Drabowski. And I want to say that in the reissue sets they make, he probably exists. When they expand the rosters to 27 players, they probably made his card. But of course, we're using first edition stuff here in my league. And they didn't make his card. So he has to go in retirement. Mo Drabowski. So 3, 2, and 3. So there is room for this Atlanta Brave to get on the phones and find an available keeper. So going back to the original question, can this team get back to a #1 seed in the National League? Hank Aaron's coming back. Perez at shortstop, not much of a change there. The rest of the offense is in great shape. Pitching wise, the three most important pitchers are coming back: Nico, Capra, and Stone, and the closer House. The 4 best pitchers are coming back, and all you have to do is decide between McQueen. You only have to add 1 lefty since you already have Stone and House. And the big question is solidify #4 starter. That's highest priority. Get a really talented #4 starter to replace Kelly. I don't see the problem here. So yeah, they can come right back and do what they just did. There's no significant fall off for these Atlanta Braves. So the Mets have to get better, and the Phillies will get better as they get closer to 75 and 76. They, improve Gary Maddox, get Jay Johnstone, who hit 329, I think, for him one of those years. Get Dick Ruffin, I think, Jim Lonborg, Larry Christensen. So the Phillies are going to get better. Maybe Tug McGraw. But I think the Mets will hold on to McGraw as long as they possibly can before they have to let him go to the Phillies. Next year's going to be fascinating in the National League East. Braves, Mets, and Phillies. A race to the division title. All three teams equipped to get there. Thanks for checking out this Eliminating the Atlanta Braves video. We'll see you next time.